G'day, welcome back to the channel and welcome to this edition of MGUY EV News for Tuesday the 11th of June 2024. Please make sure you're subscribed and do hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. So I never thought I'd say I'd rather live in New Zealand than Australia, but maybe I should go and live in New Zealand because they're being a bit more sensible about climate policies than we are here in Australia. New Zealand to lift oil drilling ban amid blackout fears in blow to Starmer. That's Keir Starmer in the UK, obviously. Policy reversal is blow to Labour's plan for similar crackdown in North Sea. So all that wonderful North Sea gas that the UK has, not allowed to use that anymore because it's fossil fuel evil. But New Zealand doesn't care. They realise that it's more important for people to be able to heat their homes and generate electricity than it is for all this ridiculous climate nonsense. New Zealand was on Saturday night expected to revoke a ban on drilling for oil and gas amid fears of blackouts, as Labour plans to impose a similar crackdown on the North Sea. The country's coalition government is preparing to invite energy companies to resume exploration of the three major offshore fields that supply most of its gas. It comes after national grid operator Transpower was last month forced to warn families to limit their electricity usage to avoid a shutdown during a cold snap. I mean, are we living in the dark ages or what? The decision to reverse the ban made by Resources Minister Shane Jones will be a setback for green activists, yes, and likely to be regarded as a blow for Labour after Ed Miliband has repeatedly pledged to halt new drilling for oil and gas in UK waters. However, New Zealand's change of course has been cheered by industry leaders. John Carnegie, Chief Executive of trade body Energy Resources Aotearoa, said, "We welcome a return to sensible, pragmatic policy settings that fairly manage the upstream oil and gas sector to the benefit of all New Zealanders. New Zealand faces an energy shortage which threatens our electricity system and the competitiveness of our exporters. We now urgently need to attract further investment in exploration and production to keep the lights on, our houses warm, and business humming." This is just common sense. Well done, New Zealand. Bravo. So if you thought you were being extra compliant and doing everything the government wanted by putting solar panels on your roof, you're in for a bit of a shock, because guess what? If you put too much electricity back into the grid, you're going to get charged for it. If too much electricity goes into the grid, you have to pay them. I know, it's bizarre, isn't it? Sun tax set to charge solar panel owners who send excess power back to the grid at peak times. About 3.5 million Aussie solar converts are receiving money from power companies for every extra kilowatt of electricity they send to the grid. But soon a solar switch will be flicked and it'll be the power punters who pay. The sun tax will soon charge solar panel owners who send their extra electricity back to the grid at peak times, typically during the day. The tax was developed to reduce congestion in the electricity network, which is grappling to handle the influx of power being sent to the grid at times of high demand. It's a move that is making solar customers like Marcus consider giving away their excess power before they're charged for it. "It's ridiculous now that they have encouraged us to do solar for 15 years and now they're going to smack us if we want to export it," Marcus said. "We're being punished for doing the right thing, following the government's recommendation, getting a rebate for getting solar. And now at the end of the road, suddenly I'm being the cash cow for the energy retailers. Marcus can't understand why something wasn't done earlier to strengthen the network. Since 2006, solar has grown exponentially," he said. "So somebody in the planning department for the energy network could have worked out 10 years ago that we're going to be in this position here right now, but they did nothing about it." But Australian Energy Market Commission Chair Anna Collier said power companies had no other choice but to impose the tariff. "I think that the uptake of solar has occurred at a pace that has probably exceeded expectations all around," she said. "Doing nothing was not really an option. The grid would get congested, no more solar would be able to be exported, and we'd actually be in a worse position for everyone. The expectation is the average solar home will be about $70 worse off, but they'll still save around $900 a year on power bills." So the grid is a very finely balanced system with generation and demand having to be very carefully aligned so that things don't get out of hand. So if you can imagine all these thousands of homes which now have solar, which in the middle of the day, when demand is at its lowest or pretty low, but the sun is doing its best work to generate electricity using solar panels, you've got a bit of a disconnect there. But nobody seemed to think of that until now. If you're looking for a primer on all the things wrong with EVs, then this article is not a bad place to start. Again, link in the description, go and check it out. Electric vehicle calculations don't add up. No, they do not. According to the Federal Highway Administration, there are over 280 million registered vehicles in the United States, including cars, trucks, and motorcycles. President Biden's plan aims to replace 67% of these vehicles with electric ones by 2032. While China, which produces 80% of the batteries, would benefit, American consumers and the environment would suffer as a result. First, purchasing an electric vehicle EV is expensive. On average, the purchase price of an EV is currently $26,000 more than a gasoline-powered car. Next, using an EV as a primary vehicle for a long family trip is extremely problematic. They have a short range of only 291 miles on average compared to 400 miles for gasoline-powered cars. Additionally, they have long charging times and reduced performance at temperatures below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, that's about 5-6 degrees centigrade, or above 90 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 20-30. On extremely cold days, the range of the battery can decrease by as much as 50%. Consequently, EVs may not be suitable for use in most northern states or out west, where temperatures range from very high to very low. This is all stuff that, if you've been following this channel for a while, will be all second nature to you. But if you want to share an article with some friends who've got strange ideas about EVs, then this one is a very good one to start with, as it goes through all the reasons why they're a bad idea. It's almost a fetish that people have with this Cybertruck nonsense. What has got into you, car and driver? Tesla Cybertruck cosplays as RoboCop with new police upfit. The Cybertruck is being readied for police duty later this year, decked out with lights, sirens, radios, and other tactical options. So when it gets involved in a chase with a criminal who's driving a gas-powered car, for example, then what happens when it runs out of battery? If a Tesla Cybertruck appears in your rearview mirror, you might choose to move out of the way, either to gawk at its angular bodywork as it drives past, or out of intimidation from its towering robotic face. But soon you might actually need to pull over for a Cybertruck with Upfit, a division of Tesla Modifier's Unplugged Performance, announcing that it plans to begin converting Cybertrucks for police duty, with the first deliveries expected later this year. Well, more fool the police departments who shell out for this piece of junk. So this is a very interesting article in the American Spectator that seems to indicate not good times ahead for Tesla. Tesla running low on charge. It will be satisfying to witness Tesla, perhaps the greatest grift ever, go the way of WorldCom and Enron. Well, it didn't end well for them. Elon's big grift is in trouble. His electric vehicle operation, which allowed car manufacturers to offset their carbon footprints by purchasing credits from Elon in lieu of making EVs themselves, had been priced with the expectation that the government would make a market for battery-powered vehicles. But Tesla's stock just lost about 40% of its value. The reason why is both ironic and delicious. The de facto EV production mandates only EVs qualify as so-called zero-emission vehicles, never mind the emissions they cause would be emitted elsewhere, that made Tesla the highest valued vehicle manufacturer on the planet, served to prod the manufacture of battery-powered devices by every other vehicle manufacturer. Once other vehicle manufacturers began manufacturing their own devices, they no longer needed to pay Tesla for credit to offset the zero-emissions vehicles they hadn't been manufacturing. The carbon credits grift is now basically kaput, and that is costing Tesla hugely. So also is the decline in demand for Tesla's cars, a consequence of the competition born from the now many manufacturers of EVs forced into being by the very zero emissions mandates that Tesla built its grift upon. It was a grift that could only work so long as Tesla had the market all to itself. Very interesting article. I think it'll be really interesting to see what's going to happen to Tesla, because they've certainly peaked and the trajectory is very much downwards as we speak. So it will be interesting to see what the future is for Tesla. And finally, Fisker, still teetering on the brink of bankruptcy and failure. And Jalopnik has this article: Fisker was never going to succeed. Unpaid bills, unprepared management, and overall chaos don't exactly pave a smooth path for mass market EVs. Fisker, after the disastrous launch of the Ocean crossover, is not doing so hot. For CEO Henrik Fisker, founder of both Fisker Automotive and VLF Automotive, it's a tale as old as time. Spin up a car company, make a few copies of one car, and then crash and burn in spectacular fashion. A new report from TechCrunch, though, starts to connect the dots on why this keeps happening to Fisker's companies, the man himself. TechCrunch spoke to workers from Fisker Inc., that's the Fisker that does the Ocean, not the Fisker that did the Karma, about the design, engineering, release and support processes for the Ocean. In each field, employees reported chaos and arbitrary decision-making that stemmed straight from the top. Henrik Fisker and Geeta Gupta Fisker, the husband and wife team running the show. From TechCrunch. A year before Henrik Fisker handed over the first 22 Ocean SUVs in the US, the founder and CEO made an unusual change in the auto industry. He wanted wheel spacers installed on the vehicles. The decision eventually rocked Fisker's engineering team. The lead chassis engineer at the time, Brent Diemers, sent an email in March 2023 to a group that included the VP of Engineering, William Stinnett, saying Fisker's design and studio team was acting alone installing the spacers without proper validation and regard for previous engineering recommendations, according to a copy viewed by TechCrunch. Diemers asked to introduce the spacers into the project by means of proper channels instead. If there's one thing the automotive world needs, it's more arbitrary decisions from the top that in no way benefit the business. These are a good thing and have never been bad for any industry. Thankfully, Fisker had plenty more where that came from, particularly when Gupta Fisker as CFO and COO initially refused to implement human support agents. Again from TechCrunch. Instead, Gupta Fisker wanted customer service requests to be handled digitally, including via a chatbot on the company's website. That decision would prove problematic years later as the first SUVs were delivered to customers. Problems cropped up within weeks of the first US deliveries, which began in June 2023. Customers struggled to contact the company for help. Documents previously reviewed by TechCrunch show the company scrambling to triage incoming requests. Sales representatives were getting calls on their personal cell phones from owners stuck on the roadside or unable to get into their Oceans. It wasn't until then that Gupta Fisker reversed course, according to former employees. To help address the influx of customer service calls, Fisker hired a company in October 2023 called Prelude Systems, which promised to provide a mix of on- and offshore service representatives. Well, there you go. So at the top of Tesla, you have a very interesting individual, and that company is going downhill fast. And at the top of Fisker, you have a pair of interesting individuals, and that company is going downhill fast as well. Make of that what you will. That's it for this one. Really hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye for now.